The Bible describes it as a sacred chest, a symbol of God's unbreakable promise to his people. But what if it was more than that? What if it was a source of almost unimaginable power, capable of leveling cities and striking down anyone who dared approach it unworthily? For centuries, the Ark of the Covenant has been the stuff of myth, legend, and a relentless search for what could be the world's greatest lost treasure. But the true story of the Ark isn't just about its disappearance. It's about a power so profound it seemed to defy the laws of nature and alter the course of history. Think about the staff of Moses, which could part seas and summon plagues. The Ark of the Covenant was in that same league, not just a holy relic, but a conduit for supernatural force. Its history is written in miracles and judgment, in stunning victories and terrifying consequences. Join us as we uncover the forgotten miracles and hidden mysteries of the Ark, revealing a legacy of divine power that's been shrouded in secrecy for centuries, and explore the burning question of where this object might be today. To understand the Ark's power, you have to go back to its creation, to a set of divine instructions given to Moses on Mount Sinai. As detailed in the book of Exodus, this wasn't your average construction project. The command from God was specific, a heavenly blueprint for an earthly object meant to house a divine presence. The chest was to be made of acacia wood, a dense, durable material, and overlaid inside and out with pure gold. The dimensions were precise, 2.5 cubits long by 1.5 cubits in width and height. That's roughly 4 feet long and a little over 2 feet wide and tall. On top, it was crowned with a solid gold lid known as the mercy seat, where 2 golden cherubim, or angelic figures, faced each other with outstretched wings, creating a sacred space between them. It was from this exact spot, between the cherubim, that God said he would meet with Moses and deliver his commands. This transforms the Ark from a mere container into a throne, the earthly seat of a heavenly king. Now, the design does have some parallels to ceremonial chests from ancient Egypt, but with one critical distinction. While Egyptian arks carried idols of their gods, the Ark of the Covenant contained something far more significant. Inside this golden chest were the 2 stone tablets of the 10 Commandments, the very words of God's covenant with Israel. Later, it would also hold a golden pot of manna, the mysterious food that sustained the Israelites in the desert, and Aaron's rod that had miraculously budded with almonds, a symbol of divine authority. The Ark was designed to be a mobile sanctuary carried by Levite priests using long poles of acacia wood slipped through golden rings. This ensured no human hand would ever directly touch its consecrated surface. From its very beginning, the Ark was set apart as an object of profound holiness and danger, representing God's actual presence among his people. It was a physical link to the divine, an ordinary wooden box made extraordinary. For 40 years, the Ark of the Covenant traveled with the Israelites through the unforgiving wilderness, a constant, visible reminder of the divine presence leading them. Finally, they stood at the edge of their destiny, the border of the Promised Land. But there was a huge obstacle in their way, the Jordan River, which was swollen and overflowing its banks. To any ordinary army, it would have been an impassable barrier. Joshua, who succeeded Moses, received a divine command that must have sounded crazy. The army wasn't to build rafts or search for a shallow spot. Instead, the priests were ordered to lift the Ark of the Covenant and walk directly into the raging river. Picture the scene: the entire nation of Israel watching as a small group of priests, carrying the golden chest, marched toward the churning water. It was a moment that demanded absolute faith, a true test of their belief in the power the Ark represented. According to the book of Joshua, the instant the priest's feet touched the water's edge, the miracle began. Upstream, the flow of the Jordan stopped, with the water piling up in a single heap. Downstream, the riverbed emptied, creating a wide, dry path straight through the flood. The priests walked to the middle of the riverbed and stood there, holding the Ark as the entire nation crossed over on dry ground. This event was a stunning display of power, intentionally echoing the parting of the Red Sea a generation earlier. It was an unmistakable sign that the same God who delivered their fathers from Egypt was now with them. The Ark wasn't just a symbol, it was the instrument through which God showed his absolute authority over the natural world. But this was just the beginning. The power that could command a river would soon be turned against an impenetrable fortress. After crossing the Jordan River, the Israelites stood before their very first military challenge, the legendary city of Jericho. This wasn't just any city. Jericho was one of the oldest and most fortified places on earth, surrounded by massive walls that looked absolutely unbreakable. A typical siege would have been a long, brutal, and bloody affair with no guarantee of success. But the strategy God gave them was anything but typical. For 6 straight days, the Israelite army was told to do something strange: just march. They were to circle the city once a day in a silent, solemn procession. At the front were armed soldiers followed by 7 priests blowing trumpets made from ram's horns, and right behind them, at the very center of it all, was the Ark of the Covenant. Imagine being a resident of Jericho, watching from the high walls. For 6 days, you'd see this bizarre ritual unfold. No swords drawn, no arrows loosed, just the steady tramp of feet and the haunting sound of those trumpets. It was a form of psychological warfare, a battle fought not with siege towers, but with pure faith and obedience. Then, the 7th day arrived. The instructions changed. This time, they were to circle the city 7 times. As the final lap concluded, Joshua gave the signal. The priests let out a single, long, powerful blast from their trumpets, and the entire army of Israel let out a massive, unified shout. In that instant, the impossible happened. The great walls of Jericho didn't just crumble. The Bible says they fell down flat, creating a clear path for the Israelite army to charge straight into the city. The fall of Jericho is one of the most famous miracles connected to the Ark. It proved that the Ark's power wasn't just for parting waters or providing food. It could be channeled as a divine weapon. But it wasn't a weapon in the conventional sense. The Ark didn't shoot out laser beams or cause an earthquake. Instead, it was the focal point of God's power. Its presence was a symbol, a guarantee that God would act, but only if the Israelites followed his seemingly strange commands with perfect faith. The lesson from Jericho is powerful and clear, with God's presence at their center, symbolized by the Ark, and with unwavering obedience, no earthly fortress, no matter how strong, was insurmountable. The same power that brought victory and miracles could also bring swift, terrifying judgment. The Ark wasn't a good luck charm to be treated casually. It was the embodiment of divine holiness, and it demanded absolute reverence. Any slip-up, any failure to follow the strict rules surrounding it could be fatal. No story shows this more clearly than the tragedy of a man named Uzzah. After the Ark had spent years away, King David decided to bring it to his new capital, Jerusalem, with a huge celebration, but in a critical error. Instead of having the Levite priests carry the Ark on its poles as the law commanded, they put it on a new ox cart, a method the Philistines had used, not the Israelites. As the procession moved along, the oxen stumbled, and the cart jolted. Uzzah, who was walking alongside, instinctively reached out to steady the Ark and keep it from falling. In that instant, for that single unauthorized touch, Uzzah was struck dead. The shocking event horrified David and everyone watching. Uzzah's intention was good. He was just trying to protect the sacred object, but his death served as a brutal reminder that good intentions weren't enough. The holiness of God, represented by the Ark, was absolute and could only be approached in the precise way he had commanded. To touch it was to profane it, a violation punishable by death. This terrifying duality, the Ark's power to both bless and curse, is driven home by what happened next. Now, terrified of the Ark, David had it taken to the house of a man named Obed-Edom. For 3 months, the Ark stayed there. But instead of disaster, Obed-Edom's household experienced incredible blessing and prosperity. The same divine presence that killed Uzzah for his mistake was now rewarding Obed-Edom for his reverence. This contrast reveals the core nature of the Ark's power. It wasn't some random wild force. It blessed those who respected its sanctity and utterly consumed those who didn't. In one of the most short-sighted moments in their history, the Israelites made a huge mistake. They started treating the Ark like a military talisman instead of a symbol of God's presence that demanded their obedience. Facing a big battle against their archenemies, the Philistines, they brought the Ark to the battlefield, thinking its mere presence would guarantee a win. They were disastrously wrong. The Israelites were defeated, and in an unthinkable catastrophe, the Ark of the Covenant was captured. The Philistines were ecstatic. They took their prize to Ashdod, one of their main cities, and placed it in the temple of their chief god, Dagon, as a war trophy. What happened next proved that the Ark's power didn't depend on the Israelites. The morning after they placed it in the temple, the people of Ashdod found their huge statue of Dagon had fallen on its face before the Ark. They set it back up, only to find it the next morning not just toppled, but shattered, its head and hands broken off. Then the real horror began. A plague of tumors and sickness swept through Ashdod. The panicking Philistine leaders sent the Ark to another city, Gath. The plague followed, wrecking the people there too. Desperate, they moved it one last time to Ekron, where the people cried out in terror, knowing what was coming. After 7 months of death and disease, the terrified Philistines knew they had to get rid of the Ark. They put it on a cart with a guilt offering of golden tumors and golden mice and sent it back toward Israelite territory. But the Ark's journey of judgment wasn't quite over. When it arrived at the Israelite town of Beth Shemesh, some of the men, either out of curiosity or disrespect, peered inside the sacred chest. For this act, 70 of them were struck dead on the spot. The capture of the Ark proved a vital point. Its power was God's power. It couldn't be controlled, manipulated, or even defeated. Even in the hands of its enemies, the Ark remained a terrifying instrument of divine authority. Beyond the famous stories of battles and plagues, the biblical text has subtle clues that hint at an even deeper, more mysterious power. For example, in Exodus, God explicitly says he would speak to Moses from between the two cherubim. This suggests the Ark actually functioned as a kind of communication device, a direct audible line to the divine. Another fascinating detail is found in later Jewish traditions like the Midrash. One text claims the Ark would clear the path for the Israelites by shooting out jets of flame to destroy snakes and scorpions. Another suggests the Ark didn't just get carried, but that it actually carried its bearers, causing them to hover just above the ground. In modern times, these descriptions of deadly force have led people to try and explain the Ark's power with science. The most popular idea is the electrical capacitor theory. This hypothesis suggests that the Ark's construction, 2 layers of a conductor, gold separated by an insulator, acacia wood, basically created a massive primitive battery, capable of storing a powerful electrical charge. A sudden discharge from a device like that could certainly be lethal, which might explain what happened to Uzzah. While this theory is interesting, it's dismissed by most scholars and theologians, who point out that it reduces God's miracles to a piece of misunderstood ancient tech. But whether you look at ancient lore or modern science, they all point to the same conclusion. The Ark was far more than a simple box. It was an object of active, dynamic, and dangerous power. After its wild early history, the Ark of the Covenant finally found a home. King Solomon built the magnificent First Temple in Jerusalem, and at its heart, in the innermost sanctuary known as the Holy of Holies, the Ark was placed. Here it rested, shielded from all human contact. Only the high priest was allowed to enter its presence, and only once a year on the Day of Atonement. For centuries, it remained the focal point of Israelite worship, and then it vanished. The Ark's disappearance is one of history's greatest unsolved mysteries. The last definite mention of it in the Bible is during the reign of King Josiah, around 622 BCE, when he ordered it to be returned to the temple. Shortly after, in 587 BCE, the Babylonian Empire under Nebuchadnezzar destroyed Jerusalem and Solomon's temple. And when the Babylonians made a list of the treasures they plundered, the Ark of the Covenant is nowhere on it. This silence has fueled centuries of speculation and a relentless globe-spanning search. Over the years, a few major theories have emerged. One of the most famous claims comes from Ethiopia. The Ethiopian Orthodox Church insists that the Ark was smuggled out of Jerusalem by Menelik I, the supposed son of King Solomon, and the Queen of Sheba, and brought to Aksum. They claim it's there to this day, in the Church of Our Lady Mary of Zion, guarded by a single monk who is the only person alive allowed to see it. Another prominent theory suggests the Ark never even left Jerusalem. Rabbinic traditions and texts like the Copper Scroll suggest that priests, knowing the Babylonian invasion was coming, hid the Ark in a secret chamber deep beneath the Temple Mount. Modern political and religious tensions have made any real archaeological dig in this sensitive area impossible, so the theory remains unproven. A similar story, found in the apocryphal book of 2 Maccabees, claims the prophet Jeremiah hid the Ark in a cave on Mount Nebo before the invasion, sealing the entrance and declaring that the location would remain a secret. Other, more fringe theories suggest it was taken by the Knights Templar or is hidden in a secret Vatican archive. Of course, there's also the most mundane, but highly possible explanation that this priceless artifact was simply destroyed in the chaos of the Babylonian conquest, melted down for its gold and lost to history forever. From its divine blueprint to the battlefields of Canaan, from its capture by enemies to its final, mysterious disappearance. The Ark of the Covenant is one of history's most powerful enigmas. It was a throne for an invisible God, a weapon that toppled walls, and a holy object that dealt both blessing and death. The stories of its power, parting rivers, felling idols, and striking down the unworthy, portray an object that wasn't merely symbolic. It was a physical conduit for a power that transcended the laws of nature, a direct link between our world and the divine. The search for the Ark continues, driven by the tantalizing idea that this object of immense supernatural force might still exist. Hidden in a forgotten cave, a remote Ethiopian church, or buried deep beneath Jerusalem. Was the Ark a piece of misunderstood technology, a divinely powered miracle machine, or something else entirely? Or maybe its heavenly purpose was fulfilled, as seen in the Apostle John's vision of the Ark in heaven. Perhaps the true power of the Ark no longer lies in a golden chest, but in the enduring mystery it represents. The profound questions about God, faith, and the thin veil that separates our world from the divine. The search for answers continues, a testament to a legacy of power that still echoes through history. If you are fascinated by the great mysteries of the past, be sure to subscribe and click the bell icon so you don't miss our next investigation. Let us know in the comments which theory about the Ark's location you find most compelling. Thank you for watching.